There's a paradox destroying the most disciplined people alive. Not the lazy, not the unmotivated, the disciplined ones. The ones who wake up early, train hard, work long hours, never miss a day. And yet, they are exhausted, anxious, and slowly breaking down. Miyamoto Musashi warned about this exact failure centuries ago. He believed burnout was not caused by weakness. It was caused by discipline without wisdom. Musashi fought dozens of duels, lived harshly, trained relentlessly, and never collapsed from exhaustion. That alone should make you uncomfortable, because it means effort is not the problem. The problem is how effort is applied. This is Stillness and Direction. This channel is about ancient samurai principles that prevent modern self-destruction. No motivation, no grind culture, only systems that make discipline sustainable. If you're doing everything right but still feel worn down, subscribe. And if you've ever felt like your discipline is slowly killing your joy, like the video now. Now listen carefully. Musashi followed a single rule that most modern people completely ignore. He believed power does not come from constant action. It comes from the space between actions. The pause between sword strikes, the silence between breaths, the stillness that allows strength to rebuild. The Japanese called this principle ma. Without ma, effort turns into noise, discipline turns into self-destruction, and life becomes endless pressure with no recovery. Most people today live without ma. They swing the sword non-stop. And eventually, the sword dulls, the body breaks, the mind collapses. Musashi refused to live that way, and because of that refusal, he never burned out. In the next section, you'll meet a modern man who did everything society praised and still collapsed completely. You'll see exactly where discipline turned against him, and how Musashi's rule exposed the real cause of burnout. His name was Takeshi. By every modern standard, he was doing everything right. Early mornings, strict routine, daily training, relentless work ethic. People admired him, some envied him. But inside, something was quietly collapsing. His sleep became shallow, his patience disappeared, his focus shattered. Yet he refused to slow down, because slowing down felt like weakness. That was his mistake. Musashi would have recognized it instantly. Takeshi believed discipline meant constant pressure, more hours, more intensity, more force. He never allowed space. No pauses between tasks, no silence between efforts, no recovery between demands. Everything was full. Musashi believed fullness was dangerous. A blade that strikes nonstop overheats. A mind that works nonstop fragments. A body that never pauses eventually rebels. Takeshi ignored the warning signs. He told himself burnout was for weaker men, that rest was indulgence, that stopping meant falling behind. Musashi believed the opposite. Strength that cannot pause, he taught, will eventually destroy itself. The samurai trained hard, but not endlessly. They moved with intensity, then returned to stillness. They struck decisively, then waited. That waiting was not laziness, it was strategy. Takeshi had no strategy for recovery, so his discipline turned against him. The more effort he applied, the less effective he became. Work took longer, training felt heavier, life felt narrow and joyless. This is where most disciplined people break. Not because they lack willpower, but because they lack space. In the next section, you'll learn exactly what the samurai meant by ma, why space is not the opposite of discipline, but its foundation, and how inserting deliberate pausers actually increases output instead of reducing it. The samurai word ma does not mean rest. It means intentional space. Space with purpose, space with control. Musashi taught that ma exists everywhere, between footsteps, between breaths,
between decisions. Most people erase these spaces. They rush the next action, fill silence with noise, replace pause with distraction. And that is where burnout begins. Takeshi never paused between tasks. He finished one thing and immediately jumped to the next. No reset, no closure. Musashi would have called this leakage. Energy does not disappear during work. It disappears in rushed transitions. When the mind never closes one task, it drags it into the next. This creates mental friction. Friction becomes fatigue. The samurai trained Ma deliberately. After intense training, they sought in stillness, not to relax, but to seal the effort. They allowed the nervous system to register completion. That completion restored energy faster than sleep ever could. Musashi believed without Ma, effort never integrates. You work hard, but nothing settles. Takeshi lived like this, always moving, never arriving. When Musashi's rule was applied, everything changed. One task, then a pause. 3 breaths, sometimes a few minutes. Nothing else. No phone, no stimulation, just stillness. At first, it felt uncomfortable, but then clarity returned, focus sharpened, effort felt lighter. This is the hidden rule. Ma multiplies effort. Without it, discipline becomes self-harm. In the next section, you'll learn how Musashi used rhythm to balance effort and pause, why constant intensity weakens discipline, and how alternating pressure and stillness prevents burnout permanently. Musashi never lived at one speed. That was the difference. Most people today choose extremes, either full intensity or complete collapse. Grind, crash, repeat. The samurai rejected this pattern. Musashi trained rhythm. Pressure, then pause. Action, then stillness. Always alternating. He believed constant intensity dulls the mind and weakens the spirit. A blade kept under pressure bends. Released at the right moment, it strikes clean. Takeshi had no rhythm. Every hour was urgent. Every task felt critical. There was no downbeat, only tension. Musashi would have called this blindness. Not lack of effort, lack of timing. So the rule was introduced. After every period of focused effort, there must be deliberate stillness. Not scrolling, not distraction, stillness. Sit, stand, breathe. Let the nervous system drop out of attack mode. This did not reduce productivity. It sharpened it. Because rhythm protects clarity. The samurai trained this everywhere. Hard march, then stop. Fast strike, then reset. Long focus, then silence. They never allowed pressure to pile endlessly. Takeshi began applying this. Work blocks ended cleanly. Training sessions closed with stillness. Days had intentional endings. Burnout began to retreat. Not because he did less, but because he stopped overlapping effort. This is the rule modern discipline ignores. Intensity must be contained. Otherwise, it leaks into everything. In the next section, you'll learn the final mistake that causes disciplined people to burn out, why identity-based discipline destroys sustainability, and how Musashi detached effort from ego to protect long-term strength. Musashi believed burnout becomes inevitable when discipline turns into identity. Takeshi didn't just work hard, he was the hard worker. He didn't just train consistently, he was the disciplined one. That sounds powerful. It's not. Because once discipline becomes who you are, you can never rest without feeling like you're losing yourself. Every pause feels like failure. Every slowdown feels like weakness. Every boundary feels like betrayal. Musashi warned against this. He believed discipline was a tool, not a personality, a sword you pick up when needed and put down when the strike is complete. Takeshi never put the sword down, so even rest felt tense, even silence felt guilty.
Musashi removed ego from effort. He did not see himself as disciplined. He saw himself as precise. Sometimes precision demanded action. Sometimes it demanded stillness. Neither threatened his identity. This is why burnout never touched him, because he didn't need to prove anything through effort. Takeshi had been proving his worth daily, to others, to himself. That constant proving drained him faster than work ever could. Musashi's correction was simple. Do the work, then release it. No pride in effort, no shame in rest, only timing. When effort is detached from identity, rest becomes strategic instead of emotional, and burnout loses its grip. In the final section, you'll see how all of Musashi's rules come together, how to apply them without becoming passive or lazy, and why sustainable discipline always outlasts relentless intensity. Musashi's rule was never about doing less. It was about ending waste. Burnout happens when effort has no boundary, when pressure has no release, when discipline never closes. The samurai closed everything. Every strike had an end. Every session had stillness. Every day had completion. That completion protected them. Takeshi learned this last lesson the hard way. He stopped chasing endless intensity, stopped proving himself through exhaustion, stopped mistaking suffering for strength. He trained with precision, worked with rhythm, rested without guilt. And something unexpected happened. His output increased, his focus sharpened, his discipline became sustainable. This is the final truth. Burnout is not a failure of willpower. It is a failure of structure. When effort is contained, it multiplies. When effort is endless, it destroys. Musashi never burned out because he never lived at maximum speed. He lived at the right speed. Action when action was required. Stillness when action was complete. Nothing extra, nothing forced. This is stillness and direction. Not grind, not collapse. Endurance through precision. And when precision governs effort, discipline stops breaking you and starts carrying you forward.